The Crimson Armada arrives. The fabric of space tore open like a wound across the void, bleeding crimson light into the darkness beyond Neptune's orbit. Admiral Alina Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the TDS Defiance, watching her tactical displays, with the calm that only came from 30 years of military service. She had seen many things in her career, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. 9,900 ships poured through the dimensional rift, like angry wasps from a disturbed hive. Each vessel was massive, easily 3 times larger than Earth's heaviest battlecruisers. Their hulls gleamed with the dark metallic sheen of advanced alien technology, and their weapons arrays pulsed with energy that registered off the charts on every sensor. The Vorthon Collective had finally come to Earth. Elena's second-in-command, Captain Marcus Webb, approached with a grim expression. His normally steady hands trembled slightly as he held the preliminary sensor readings. The numbers told a story that no military strategist wanted to hear. Admiral, final count confirms 9,900 enemy vessels. Our combined fleet strength is 340 ships. Webb's voice remained professional, but Alina could hear the underlying tension. Intelligence estimates their smallest frigate could destroy our largest dreadnought in single combat. Alina nodded, her weathered face showing no emotion. She had known this day would come ever since humanity had made first contact with the Vorthon scouts 3 years ago. The aliens had been polite enough during the initial diplomatic exchanges, but their message had been clear from the beginning: submit to collective authority or face annihilation. Humanity had chosen a third option. The bridge fell silent as the massive alien formation began moving toward the inner system. Their approach was methodical and terrifying, like watching a tsunami advance across the ocean. The lead vessels alone numbered in the hundreds, each one bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Communications, patch me through to all fleet commanders, Alina ordered, and send word to Earth Defense Command. Tell them to activate the Last Stand protocol. The communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Park, hesitated for a moment. The Last Stand protocol was theoretical, a desperate contingency plan that had never been tested under real combat conditions. But these were desperate times. Admiral, incoming transmission from the alien fleet. They're requesting to speak with our Supreme Commander. Alina straightened her uniform and walked to the main view screen. Put them through. Let's see what these creatures want to say before they try to destroy us. The screen flickered to life, revealing a being that belonged in humanity's darkest nightmares. Supreme War Marshal Dexver stood nearly 8 feet tall, his 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws that could tear through steel. His elongated skull housed 6 eyes that glowed with malevolent intelligence, and his mouth was filled with rows of teeth designed for rending flesh. The creature's voice emerged as a series of clicks and hisses, but the universal translator rendered his words in perfect, chilling English. I am Supreme War Marshal Dexver of the Vorthon Collective. You stand before the greatest military force in galactic history. We have conquered 800 civilizations across 50 sectors. Your pathetic species will surrender immediately, or you will join the extinct races whose bones litter our trophy rooms. Alina stepped forward, meeting the alien's gaze without flinching. She had faced down pirates, rebels, and the worst humanity had to offer during her career. This oversized insect didn't intimidate her. I am Admiral Alina Rodriguez of the Terran Defense Corps. This is our home system, and we don't surrender our home to anyone. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it from our dead hands. The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Your defiance is amusing, mammal. We have studied your species for decades. You are soft, weak creatures who have barely escaped your own gravity well. Your ships are primitive, your weapons are toys, and your tactics are centuries behind our military doctrine. Alina smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You've studied us, have you? Then you should know that humans have one particular talent that sets us apart from other species. And what talent is that? We're very, very good at killing things that try to kill us. The transmission ended with Vexfer's harsh laughter echoing across the bridge. The alien fleet began spreading into attack formation, their movements precise and coordinated. Alina watched them deploy with professional interest, noting their tactical patterns and ship classifications. They're using the Crimson Fist formation, she observed. Classic, overwhelming force doctrine. Maximum intimidation factor with concentrated firepower at the spearhead. Webb checked his tactical display. Our fleet is outnumbered 29-1, Admiral. Their smallest escort vessel outguns our heavy cruisers. Even with perfect tactics, we can't win a conventional engagement. Alina nodded. She had never expected to win a conventional battle against the Vorthan Collective. But humanity had learned, long ago, that conventional thinking was often the first casualty of war. Signal all ships. Implement dispersion pattern Delta of them. I want our forces scattered across the entire outer system. Use the asteroid belts, the gas giant moons, anywhere we can find cover. The human fleet began breaking apart, individual ships accelerating toward predetermined positions throughout the solar system. To external observers, it looked like a panicked retreat. The Vorthan commanders certainly interpreted it that way, their formations tightening as they prepared for what they expected to be a quick slaughter. Alina walked to her command chair and activated a secure channel to Earth Defense Command. General Patricia Morrison's face appeared on her personal screen, the strain of the last few weeks visible in every line of her weathered features. Alina, tell me you have good news. The protocol is active, Patricia. Dr. Chen's team confirms. All parameters are within acceptable ranges. We're about to find out if 50 years of research and preparation were worth it. Morrison nodded grimly. The President wanted me to tell you that humanity is proud of what you're doing out there. Whatever happens, you've bought us time to evacuate the major population centers. Alina laughed, surprising herself. Tell the President that we're not planning to lose today. Humanity has a few surprises left. The first Vorthan ships opened fire at extreme range, their weapons reaching across millions of kilometers to strike at human vessels. The beams were powerful enough to vaporize asteroids, but the human ships were no longer where the aliens expected them to be. Alina watched her tactical display as Captain Sarah Mitchell's fighter squadron emerged from the shadow of Titan, Saturn's largest moon. The small ships accelerated at impossible rates, their pilots pulling maneuvers that should have turned them into paste against their cockpit walls. But something was different about Mitchell's squadron. Their movements were too precise, too coordinated. It was as if they were operating with enhanced reflexes and spatial awareness that went beyond normal human capabilities. Admiral, I'm reading some unusual biosignatures from Mitchell's pilots, Webb reported. Their heart rates are elevated, but their brain activity is off the charts. Whatever's happening to them, it's not normal. Alina nodded. Dr. Chen had warned them about the side effects of the protocol. The genetic modifications were supposed to remain dormant until triggered by extreme stress. Combat against overwhelming odds certainly qualified as extreme stress. Mitchell's squadron struck the lead Vorthan vessels like a swarm of angry hornets. Their weapons were smaller than the aliens' massive guns, but they were hitting critical systems with surgical precision. One alien heavy cruiser lost its main engines after a perfectly placed shot from Lieutenant Rodriguez's fighter. Another found its weapon arrays disabled by a coordinated attack from 3 human pilots working in perfect synchronization. The Vorthan response was swift and brutal. Energy beams lanced out to swat the human fighters from space. But the small ships moved like living things, dodging and weaving through the incoming fire with inhuman grace. Elena felt something stirring in her own chest. A sensation like electricity running through her nervous system. Her vision seemed sharper, her thoughts clearer. Around the bridge, her crew was experiencing similar changes. Lieutenant Park's fingers flew over her console with impossible speed, coordinating communications. Across the entire fleet, Webb was analyzing tactical data faster than the computers could process it. The last stand protocol was working. 50 years ago, when humanity had first detected signs of advanced alien civilizations, a secret project had been initiated. Dr. Marcus Chen, one of Earth's leading geneticists, had made a disturbing discovery while studying human DNA. Buried deep in the genetic code were sequences that didn't belong to normal evolution. They were too complex, too purposeful to be natural mutations. Chun's team had spent decades trying to understand what they had found. The sequences seemed to be dormant evolutionary triggers, designed to activate during periods of extreme threat. When triggered, they enhanced human reflexes, intelligence, and coordination to superhuman levels. The project had been classified at the highest levels. Only a few dozen people knew that humanity carried the genetic legacy of an unknown precursor species, one that had apparently modified human ancestors millions of years ago for reasons that remained mysterious. Now, as Alina watched her outnumbered fleet engage the Vorthan armada, she began to understand why those ancient benefactors might have left such gifts in human DNA. The battle spread across the solar system as human ships emerged from hiding places throughout the outer planets. They moved with coordination that defied explanation, as if they were sharing a collective consciousness. Vorthan ships that should have been able to destroy human vessels with single shots found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned by opponents who seemed to predict their every move. Supreme War Marshal Dexter watched the battle unfold from his flagship with growing confusion and rage. His tactical officers were reporting impossible things. Human pilots were surviving accelerations that should have liquefied their internal organs. Human gunners were making shots at ranges and angles that required computational abilities beyond their species' technological level. Most disturbing of all, the humans were learning. Each engagement taught them more about Vorthan tactics and technology. They adapted and countered with a speed that suggested some form of genetic memory or inherited knowledge. War Marshal, we have lost 63 vessels in the first engagement, reported his chief tactical officer. Human casualties are minimal. Their fighters are operating at efficiency levels that exceed our computer models. Dexter's mandibles clicked with rage. They are primitives, barely evolved mammals who discovered spaceflight less than a century ago. How are they matching our forces? The answer came from an unexpected source. The collective's chief xenobiologist, Dr. Vextai, appeared on the command screen with an expression of scientific fascination mixed with growing horror. War Marshal, I have been analyzing human genetic samples from our previous encounters. I have found something that changes everything we thought we knew about this species. Explain quickly. We are in the middle of a battle. The humans are not what they appear to be, sir. Their DNA contains artificial modifications that are millions of years old. Someone or something enhanced their ancestors, giving them dormant capabilities that activate under extreme stress. Dexter felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. What kind of capabilities? Enhanced reflexes, increased intelligence, improved coordination, and something else. Something I have seen before in our historical records, where Dr. Vextai's next words struck terror into the heart of the Vorthan's supreme commander. The ancients, sir, the extinct race that once ruled this entire galaxy. The humans carry their genetic signature. Asterisk when prey becomes predator. The revelation hit the Vorthan command like a plasma torpedo to the hull. Supreme War Marshal Dexter stared at the genetic analysis floating on his holographic display, his 6 eyes trying to process information that challenged everything the collective knew about galactic history. The ancients had been the galaxy's first spacefaring civilization, ruling over countless worlds millions of years before the Vorthan collective had even evolved. Their technology had been so advanced that it seemed like magic to lesser species. They had disappeared suddenly, leaving behind only ruins and legends that spoke of their incredible power. If the humans carried ancient genetic modifications, it explained everything that was happening in the battle around them. We are receiving priority communications from Fleet Command, announced his communications officer. They are ordering immediate withdrawal from the Terran system. Dexter's mandibles clicked with fury. Withdrawal. We are the greatest military force in galactic history. We do not retreat from primitives. But even as he spoke, his tactical displays showed the truth. The Vorthan fleet was being systematically destroyed by human forces that seemed to grow, stronger and more coordinated with each passing minute. Ships that had conquered entire star systems were being outmaneuvered by vessels they should have been able to swat aside like insects. On the bridge of the TDS Defiance, Admiral Alina Rodriguez felt the full power of humanity's awakening flowing through her consciousness. Her awareness extended beyond her own ship to encompass the entire human fleet. She could sense the thoughts and intentions of every captain, every pilot, every gunner in the battle. They moved as one organism, a collective intelligence that had lain dormant in human DNA for millions of years. The sensation was intoxicating and terrifying at the same time. Admiral, we're receiving reports from across the fleet, Captain Webb announced, his voice carrying an odd harmonic quality that hadn't been there before. All crews are experiencing the enhancement effects. Reaction times are up 400%. Tactical processing is beyond anything our computers can match. Alina nodded, her enhanced perception allowing her to process multiple information streams simultaneously. She could see the battle unfolding across the entire solar system, like a three-dimensional chess game, and she knew exactly how to win. Signal all vessels. Begin Phase 2 of the protocol. Release the genetic limiters completely. Webb hesitated for a moment. Admiral, Dr. Chen warned us that full activation might be irreversible. We don't know what complete enhancement will. Due to human physiology, Alina turned to face her second-in-command, and Webb saw something in her eyes that made him step back. They still looked human, but there was an intelligence behind them that seemed ancient and vast. Captain, we are about to show the galaxy why the ancients chose humanity as their inheritors. Give the order. Across the human fleet, the final genetic barriers fell away. In fighter cockpits, pilots felt their reflexes accelerate to superhuman levels. On battleship bridges, tactical officers began processing information at rates that made quantum computers seem slow. In engineering sections, technicians suddenly understood alien technology as if they had been working with it their entire lives. Captain Sarah Mitchell pulled her fighter through a turn that should have torn her ship apart, but her enhanced awareness allowed her to manipulate the craft's gravitational fields in ways that defied conventional physics. She could feel the stress patterns in her ship's hull, could sense the optimal flight path through the debris field. Ahead of her, her squadron had grown from 12 fighters to over 200 as more human pilots joined the coordinated assault. They moved like a school of fish, each individual craft perfectly synchronized with the others. When one pilot spotted a target, the entire formation instantly adjusted to bring maximum firepower to bear. The Vorthen heavy cruiser, Inevitable Victory, found itself surrounded by human fighters that seemed to appear from everywhere at once. Its massive weapons tried to track the small, fast-moving targets, but they were moving in patterns that were impossible to predict. When the cruiser's shields finally failed under the concentrated assault, the human pilots didn't simply destroy it, they boarded it. Vorthen security forces watched in horror as human marines cut through their ship's hull with tools that shouldn't have been able to penetrate advanced alien armor. The humans moved through the corridors with fluid grace, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to dodge plasma bolts and return fire with impossible accuracy. But it wasn't just their physical abilities that had been enhanced. The human marines seemed to understand Vorthen technology instinctively, hacking into computer systems and accessing databases as if they had been trained on alien equipment their entire lives. Within minutes, the Inevitable Victory had been captured, intact, its crew either dead or surrendering in terror. Supreme War Marshal Dexver watched his fleet disintegrate with growing panic. The humans weren't just winning the battle, they were learning from every engagement, adapting their tactics faster than his forces could respond. His ships were being captured, not just destroyed, and the humans were using Vorthen technology against its creators. "Sir, we have lost over 3,000 vessels," reported his tactical officer. "Human forces have captured 47 of our ships intact and are turning our own weapons against us." Dexver's worst fears were realized when a familiar voice spoke from his communication system. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on his screen, but she was now wearing Vorthon battle armor and standing on the bridge of a captured dreadnought. "War Marshal, I want to thank you for bringing us such wonderful gifts," Alina said, her voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there during their first conversation. "Your technology is quite impressive. We're learning so much from it." "Impossible," Dexver hissed. "You are primitives. How are you understanding our systems?" Alina smiled, and Dexver saw something in her expression that chilled him to his core. It was the look of a predator that had been pretending to be prey. "We're not primitives, Marshal. We never were. We're the inheritors of the galaxy's first empire, and you've just reminded us of our birthright." The human fleet had grown to include hundreds of captured Vorthen vessels, their alien crews either eliminated or forced to serve under human commanders who understood their technology better than they did. The enhanced humans didn't need training or instruction manuals. The knowledge seemed to flow directly from their genetic memory. Dr. Marcus Chen, monitoring the battle from Earth's orbital research station, watched the transformation with a mixture of wonder and concern. The genetic modifications were working beyond his most optimistic projections, but the humans were changing in ways that went far beyond simple enhancement. "Director, We're reading massive neurological changes across the entire enhanced population, reported his chief researcher. Brain activity is up by orders of magnitude. They're not just thinking faster, they're thinking differently, more like a collective consciousness than individual minds. Chen nodded grimly. He had suspected this might happen. The ancient genetic modifications weren't just about individual enhancement. They were about creating a species capable of true collective intelligence. The question was whether humanity would remain human after the transformation was complete. In space, the battle had become a rout. Vorthan ships fled in every direction, but the enhanced humans seemed to anticipate their every move. Human fighters appeared from impossible angles, cutting off escape routes and forcing alien vessels into carefully prepared kill zones. Supreme War Marshal Dexver found himself commanding a fleet of fewer than 100 ships, from his original force of nearly 10,000. His remaining vessels were trapped in the outer system, surrounded by human forces that had grown to include over 2,000 captured Vorthan ships. War Marshal, incoming transmission from the human fleet, announced his communications officer. Dex straightened his battle armor and prepared to face his defeat with whatever dignity remained to him. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on his screen, but she was no longer alone. Behind her stood representatives of what appeared to be every human ship in the system, their eyes sharing that same ancient intelligence. Marshal, we're prepared to offer you terms, Alina said. You may withdraw from our system with 18 ships. Choose your survivors carefully. They will be the ones who carry our message to the rest of the galaxy. What message? Dexver asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. That humanity has awakened. That the inheritors of the ancients have reclaimed their place in the galaxy, and that any species foolish enough to threaten Earth will face the same fate as the Vorthan collective. Alina paused, her enhanced consciousness touching the minds of every human in the system. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of an entire species' collective will. Tell them that we tried to be peaceful. We offered friendship, cooperation, mutual benefit. But when threatened with extinction, we remembered what we truly are. The screen filled with images of the devastated Vorthan fleet. Thousands of ships, destroyed or captured, millions of crew members dead or imprisoned. The greatest military force in galactic history had been reduced to fewer than 20 vessels in a matter of hours. Go, Alina continued. Take your survivors and spread the word. Humanity is no longer prey. We are the apex predators our ancestors designed us to be, and we will not tolerate threats to our existence. The 18 surviving Vorthan ships limped away from the solar system, their crews traumatized by what they had witnessed. Behind them, they left a transformed humanity that was already turning its attention to the captured alien technology and the vast galaxy beyond. On Earth, emergency. Broadcasts announced humanity's victory to a population that was only beginning to understand what they had become. The genetic enhancement had affected every human in the solar system, creating a species-wide collective consciousness that spanned planets and space stations. Dr. Chen watched the celebrations with mixed emotions. Humanity had survived its first test as an awakened species, but the cost of that survival was still being calculated. The humans celebrating in the streets below were no longer the same species that had gone to sleep the night before. They were something new, something more, something that carried the genetic legacy of the galaxy's first empire in the depths of space. Automated beacons began broadcasting warnings to every civilized world within 1,000 light years. The messages were simple and terrifying, warning to all spacefaring species. The Terran system is now under the protection of an awakened ancient air species. Approach with caution. Aggression will be met with overwhelming force. The sleeping giants have awakened, and they remember their strength. The galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Alina Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her flagship, now enhanced with captured Vorthon technology, and looked out at the stars with new eyes. Humanity had passed its first test, but she knew it would not be the last. Other species would come, drawn by curiosity or driven by fear of humanity's awakening. Let them come, she thought, her consciousness touching the minds of millions of enhanced humans across the solar system. We are ready for whatever the galaxy can throw at us. In the darkness between stars, ancient automated systems that had lain dormant for millions of years began to stir. The genetic triggers had been activated, the air species had awakened, and the galaxy's long-lost guardians were returning to claim their inheritance. The age of humanity had begun.